am sending 48 special delegates to each state house to determine whether or not the 16th Amendment was ever ratified, because if it wasn't, it is not law, and it is hereby null and void. Hand is right here. Didn't take very long, did it? Now, the next thing we've got to do is we must secure our sovereignty. The Senate has already determined that the UN mandates, the UN Charter, is supreme even to our Constitution. But does that mean that it's so? It does not. And so what will I, as a chief executive officer, and can I do this alone, by the way? Oh, no. But I'm going to call you to serve. And some of you may say, but Bo, I love it out here in the West. I don't want to move back to that cesspool. I don't want to go to Washington, District of Criminals. But you're going to be called. If you can balance a checkbook, aren't you more qualified to serve than those that are there today? And so there will be an army of 16,000. We will be led by the fife and drums from Oregon. That is a promise. It's part of the contract. We will march down Pennsylvania Avenue rather than being driven in a limousine, and we will establish our foothold on Capitol Hill the day we take that oath of allegiance. And on that day, I am going to make it very clear that as the chief executive, I will pull us out of the United Nations before I will see our sovereignty surrendered to any foreign power. Now, I don't know about you. You may believe that AIDS came from green monkeys. You may also believe that your ancestors climbed out of the ocean as slime. Mine did not. Some of yours may have. Just because that's all you can teach in the school system today doesn't mean that it's true. There's a lot of other things that they're teaching in there that aren't true either. AIDS, I don't believe, came from green monkeys. And I think you can take a look at Africa, because the World Health Organization has, and the World Health Organization has stated, Africa is a continent that is lost. Now, Africa is a rich continent in natural resources. What do you think is going on here in the United States of America? Almost every day you lose more of your state. And if it isn't in Oregon that more of your resources are being sequestered by the federal government, it's in some other state. Alaska has all but disappeared as a state. Nevada's in the same position. Almost every state has been taken away. Why? Who is going to pay the debt when the foreigners and the banks that have bought up the $4 trillion, which is compounding every year and will redouble again in the next few, who's going to pay it when it comes due in the next 4 to 5 years? That's why you're not going to be voting as Americans in '96. Because the foreclosure, I think, will simply be the President's declaration of a national emergency, which says, friends, America, with all of our lifestyle, we have corrupted ourselves, we are in debt, we cannot pay it, we're being foreclosed upon, but there is an answer. It is called the Declaration of Interdependence, of which both of your senators, shame on you, signed the Declaration of Interdependence. It says that our resources are global resources. Therefore, if we will surrender our resources to those that we owe our debt to, then this debt will be forgiven. Isn't that what they did to Brazil? The international bank said, we will repudiate the debt if you will simply give us all of your resources in all perpetuity. That's what they tried to do in the Philippines with Marcos. He said no, and you saw what happened to Marcos. And so is it beginning to come through what's happening here in America? That's why they're taking your Douglas fir. That's why, do you know that Oregon, now Nevada is called the Silver State, but Oregon has the same resources beneath the soil that they have in the state of Nevada. You just haven't fully developed it yet because your state has been especially blessed with a fishing industry and with a lumber industry. But those are tremendous resources which are going to be turned over. Do you see that? And George Bush made the statement, you want jobs, I'll give you jobs overseas. Baloney. Good. Better known, baloney is a word, but better known as bush lip, if you don't mind. I think bush lip covers almost anything that is said by conventional politicians in the 1990s. But thank you. And so that's why it's essential that we get back under the sovereignty business. We've got to take AIDS on head to head. Lorraine Day has agreed to be the Surgeon General. Lorraine Day, glad some of you know her. She should be the Surgeon General under any president, but she's going to be our Surgeon General. She's not even going to wear a uniform, she said. Lorraine Day, for some of you who may not know her, was the chief orthopedic surgeon in San Francisco General Hospital. Some of her best friends, surgeons, were dying, yet they were taking all the normal precautions. And they were not AIDS prone, and yet they were being killed by the AIDS virus. And so Lorraine Day began to do her own research. She's written a book. We carry it because it's one of the really great books that you need to have and to read and to pass on. Lorraine Day found out the Center for Disease Control is not telling the American people the truth about AIDS. Her book is called AIDS, What the Government Isn't Telling You. And I don't want to get into it too deep, but let me just bring out a few things. Does the AIDS virus live outside the body? It does. For how long? Good. Well, see, a lot of people are alert here. There's only three kinds of folks in the world that I found. There's those who cause things to happen. I think you're here. Much greater group is those that wait, do they not, for something to happen. Finally, there is that group that just goes and wonders what happened after it's already occurred. So I can tell that you guys are already up to speed. Can AIDS virus infiltrate intact skin? Yes, it can. How does it do this? Well, Lorraine Day determined, through the Center for Disease Control, that the porosity, the size of the AIDS virus is on a scale, it is a 1. And what is the porosity factor of the condoms that they're giving to high school students for safe sex nowadays? What is the porosity factor of the mask, of the gloves? It is 4 to 5. What does this mean? It means the AIDS virus goes through it like a Volkswagen driving into this room. And so that's why these surgeons were dying of AIDS, that were not AIDS prone. We've got to stop this business because I think one of the lures of the New World Order will be, you accept our mark and we will give you the therapy that will keep you AIDS free. Well, now, do you believe that we have? Think about it for a moment. Do we have cures for AIDS and cancer right now in the USA? Yes, we do. With everybody's knowing it, how come we don't have it available? Because if right now, if you call the AMA or you talk to the Food and Drug Administration, they will tell you the only cures for AIDS are surgery, chemotherapy, and radiation. Does that mean it's true? Does not mean it's true. Why? In combat, we use a thing called ozone. If you have gangrene, ozone is applied to the area and the decayed skin is evaporated. It is done away with. All bacteria is destroyed. In Moscow today, the world's largest ozone generator exists. All the water in Moscow is purified. All virus, all bacteria is killed by ozone. Now, I'm not a doctor, but here's something that's on the contract for every state in the union. There will not be an AMA doctor running the Food and Drug Administration. It's going to be a holistic medicine person, someone that understands living better through chemistry may be better for the chemical companies, but not for the American people. We're going to have people in the bureaucracy. Everybody clear on that? We're going to have people in there who understand how to live with alternative medicines, preventative medicines. For example, in Texas, I want to try to show it to you. All of this stuff is in your document packet and a lot more besides, but in Texas, here's what's happening. All of these things are being pulled off the shelves by the Food and Drug Administration. Now let me just run down just a few of them. COQ10, tea tree oil, herbs and herbal products, flax oil, vitamin C, aloe vera, calcium, multivitamins. Yeah. Now, this is in Texas, but Texas is the first domino. But Texas is one of the largest areas of health food stores. When this gets done there, this is in your document packet, it's going to go to every state in the union. Why are they doing this? They're not just doing it so that you have to go to a doctor and get a prescription so that you buy these same things from pharmaceutical houses like DuPont, but they are doing it so you cannot control your own health, because you won't be issued these things by prescription in the amounts that you might use them as an individual. And so now how do we do this? Can Bo Gritz do this? Oh, listen how easy this one is. This doesn't have to wait until the 21st day of January. The 3rd day of November, we're having a general election. On the 4th, we will know who has won. I'm going to send a little yellow stickum to George Bush that says, put a pink slip in with every check of all 16,000 people that you appoint, because every one of them is fired as of the 21st day of January. Now, in the Reagan Revolution, less than 10% of the bureaucracy was changed. Do you understand why? It's like human sewage that packs the bureaucracy. We can't have clean government until we rout it out. And how do we rout it out? You don't have transition periods. You fire every one of them. And then we are identifying now, and that's why Jerry Gillespie exists. He's this real ugly fellow over here at the table by my beautiful bride. Jerry Gillespie is our national campaign coordinator. If you want to volunteer, some of you won't be given a chance. I'm going to draft you because I know you and your talents. You're going to Washington, D.C. to help us serve. But if you want to volunteer and you have special interest, I don't care whether it's in petroleums, because we're going to have alternative fuels, friend. Why should we be dependent upon Arab oil? If we were to... And was there a 100-mile-per-gallon carburetor? My gosh, when I was a kid they had them. And so why don't we have them today? Well, it's the same reason. I'm going to read you this as part of your document packet. This is the solicitation for charitable purposes card. Anytime someone asks you, would you help a hungry child? Would you help the homeless? If you have time, you can stop and say, you know, that sounds like a worthy cause. Could I kindly see your solicitation for charitable purposes card? Because they have to have one, or they cannot be out there soliciting unless you're just a bum on the street. And then they will produce it. It is normal. This is the normal size, this right here, very small print. But if you adjust your eyes and begin to read, it'll tell you where the money goes. And isn't that interesting? The national guidelines are that from 7 to 15% of money collected should actually go for what it's being collected for. Now, this is the solicitation for charitable purposes card for the National Cancer Research Center. Let me have some guesses. Let me have some ideas of how much money of every dollar goes. Now, let's listen. National, that's all states. Cancer, only one purpose. Research Center. Now, how much? 8 cents. Do I have more? That's pretty skeptical. 1 cent. 91 cents goes to cancer research.
Half a cent.
0.91. 0.91. That's less than 1%. That's pretty, isn't that pretty skeptical? Okay, let me read it to you. This is in your document packet. This is the things that people need to wake up to. This is why we don't have cost-efficient, effective cancer cures and AIDS cure. Lorraine Day was with us the other day, and she said that at the last time she attended the United States Health Organization meeting, that she found the director of the Cancer Research Center had become the director of AIDS research, because there's more money to be made in AIDS research than there is cancer research. But in cancer research, here it is, quote, "The Watson and Huey Company gets 57.04% of every dollar because they are the publicist. Now, 35.05% goes for the advertising and for the radio and television and this kind of thing. 7.37% goes to the administrators. What does this leave? This leaves, right here in their own language, 0.54 of 1%. That is 1/2 penny goes of each dollar to cancer research. Now do you understand why we don't have effective cures? If Moscow can purify all of its water using ozone where a virus or bacteria cannot exist, what does that mean happens to the AIDS virus? What does that mean happens to cancer when that same oxygen therapy is applied to the human body? Now, I'm not the doctor, but I believe that we have these cost-efficient cures. If it works in combat, if it works in Moscow, it ought to be working for you. And it costs about 15 cents, though, for oxygen therapy. As a matter of fact, H2O2, what is that? Hydrogen peroxide is one of the things that doesn't that also talk to a high content of oxygen? If virus and bacteria can't exist, could these possibly be cures for these heinous diseases? My heavens. And at what, 15 cents a session? Now you know why we don't have them. But we will have. Does everybody understand, please, that on November 4th, we put them on notice? January 21st, 16,000. Can the president do that? Yes. This song back here was given to me in Oregon by a gentleman who was a U.S. Senate candidate, and I understand he's dropped out. I'm sorry to hear it. But he came up to me and he said, "Bo, you need a theme song, and I think I've got it for you." And he gave me the music and the lyrics. There's only one thing wrong with this in 1992. Instead of 10,000, it is 16,000. It's everybody from the State Department through the CIA chief, through the Federal Communications Commission, to the Interstate Commerce Commission, you name it, the president hires them. If he hires them, I can fire them. Once they're all fired, we're going to put new people in. I've got to have volunteers that are capable. If you can balance a checkbook, I've already told you, you're more capable than you believe. And I'm looking primarily for senior citizens because I am going to be your field general. I'm not going to tell you how to run your department. I'm going to tell you to run it honestly, to run it uprightly, and to run it with one agenda, the healing of America. I don't care if you're the head of the CIA or the FBI or what you are. You have one agenda. Now, it's up to you to run that department, and you know, that's why, and again, I've got criticized a lot because they said Bo Gritz is going to take Capitol Hill with grandmas. Better watch out, because 16,000 harder than woodpecker lip grandmas can get through almost anything. A question I should have answered: how do we pay for government when we get rid of the income tax? Well, let's just analyze it a little bit, because I asked myself this question. I said, you know, income tax is unconstitutional. That's why they had to pass an amendment. It is part of the Communist Manifesto. I said, but how will we pay for government without the income tax? Isn't the answer simple? Go back to the master architect's plan. What is this plan? The Constitution. And how does it say we pay for government? Well, it's pretty simple. First of all, I said, let's see, when did we have income tax? Started in 1913. Well, what is this year now? This is 1992. And so for 79 years, we have had income tax. But for 125 years, we didn't have any income tax. How did we pay for government without income tax? Go back to the Constitution. You find all the answers there. What does it say? It says you pay for government by excise tax, by impost, by tariffs, by duties, and if needs be, by a thing called direct apportionment. Can we pay for government with free trade? You cannot. When George Bush is advocating a fast track for free trade, what is he trying to accelerate? He's trying to accelerate the New World Order, because the faster he gets us on our knees to lick the hands that feed us, the faster we won't be able to vote. That's why the national emergencies coming from all the good conservative Republicans, because they're following the party line. That's why we've got to strip away these party lines. We're going to be Americans, not Republicrats, not right-left. And how are we going to do that? Let me very quickly clarify it, because this is part of the contract. As of January 21st, I'm going to write an executive order. I don't think executive orders are constitutional, but see if you will agree with this one. We're going to resurrect the Kennedy order. We're going to write one executive order. That executive order says that as of the 20th day of February, that's 30 days later, every federal elected official, that's the president, the vice president, and everyone in Congress, has their wages cut in half. Now, why would I do that? Let's think about it. I was going to include the federal judges, but you got to read the Constitution. And the spotlight says, Bo can't do this. Bush lip, Carto lip, call it whatever you want to. Can the president write an executive order? He most certainly can. They have written over 11,000 of them. Has one ever been vetoed in the history of the United States? It has not. How do executive orders work? The president writes them. He sends them over to Congress. Congress has 30 days to either approve it or to veto it by 2/3 majority of each house. If they don't veto it within 30 days, it becomes law. The same as if Congress were to send a bill to the president that had been approved of both houses, and the president does nothing within 10 days, it becomes law, unless he vetoes it. And so why would I do this? Cut the pay in half. You can't do it with the federal judges because the Constitution says no, but it doesn't say anything about not cutting the pay of Congress and the executive branch. And so we are. The reason? In a time when we've had more unemployment than any other time in the world, at a time we've got more bankruptcies, more than 1 million bankruptcies in the last 12 months, all-time record, more homeless, all of a sudden the Congress writes itself into the top 10% of all wage earners. Something's wrong with that picture. How many years do you have to work in order to retire as a congressman? 5 years. At the end of 5 years, how much do you retire with? 100%. Yeah, some of you are saying, whoops, I didn't know that. 100%. Isn't it good to be Congress? Congress are not patriots. If you have to pay a patriot, you got the wrong person. Congress are profiteers. Congress has turned out to be the best money can buy. They have made the word politics, as I've said, go down to the bottom along with whale droppings. Now, by cutting their pay in half, what do? First of all, you look to the east. If you're not with me in Washington, D.C., and you see a dark brown cloud, that is the shoe leather burning with all those lawyers shuffling around in the Capitol building trying to figure out what they're going to do with this executive order. If they veto it, what does it do? It will identify every turkey in Congress who is a profiteer. And in 1994, we're going to have a turkey shoot in Congress. Figuratively, you're going to shoot them out of office, will you not? Shame on you if you don't. By 1996, I can see a real American Congress. Now, what we're doing is we're getting started here with people that are willing now to start running against the Republicans. They don't have the money that Bob Packwood has got. They don't have the political action committees. They don't have the war chest. But if they will put together a contract, maybe it'll get the kind of publicity that will cause people to wake up. And so that's what I intend to do as I start out. And it's going to be a rather interesting first few days. And you should know that I am not bulletproof. And if I were by myself, I would never make it, probably, to the podium to take the oath of allegiance. But I'm going to have 16,000 of you with me, and I've noticed that the pipe major is a rather portly lad, and so he's going to be leading this procession. So I'm going to be fairly safe until I get there. I have a man who will be with me. His name is Cy Manette. He is harder than woodpecker lips. You should know he too is a Christian. More than that, he's a constitutionalist. If anything happens to me, Cy Manette from Kerrville, Texas, 62 years old, retired fighter pilot. Here we got Charlie Brown, who is a Navy chief. We don't pay him anything. He's the national campaign manager. You want to get something done, you get a Navy chief. He may steal. I don't know how Charlie gets us to where we're going, but he's going to do it. I've got myself an Air Force fighter pilot as a vice president. All I'm looking for is a Marine. We got any Marines? Golly, see there? They're out there waiting, or they're wondering what's going to happen. We need some good Marines just so we can flesh this thing out. By the way, in my book over there, if you are a Marine, I've put 165 pages of pictures so that you'll have something to look at. And if you were a sailor, if you were in the Navy, we'll give you a crayon so that you can connect the dots, because there's some blank pages in the back. We want to have a little something for everybody now to do with Call to Serve. What was I talking about with the mark of the beast? Now, this is very serious. There's 2 points I want to make, and then I'm going to answer your questions. One is on the prisoners of war. The second is on the mark of the beast. And I think that we'll get to it first, if it's all right. This thing is real. Mary Rolfe is a Christian writer. She puts out a little book. It's $4.95. It's mislabeled. It says, "When Your Money Fails." We carry it as part of the Center for Action because it's one of the finest books, I think, that's on the market today that you need to pass around to your friends. It ought to probably be labeled America in Prophecy, because she has taken all of the biblical scriptures from Daniel, Ezekiel, all the way down to Revelations, and each one of these prophets had all these visions. And so if you start reading one, you get all mixed up with another one. But she's taken them and laid them all out in chronological sequence in that one little paperback so you can understand it. It's pretty good. Mary Rolfe started talking about the fact that they were using infrared lasers to tattoo fish and animals so that they could monitor various populations as they migrated and died and one thing and the other. And so Mary Rolfe had offered the theory that they would start marking people with infrared laser tattoo. About 9 months ago, we were in Idaho Falls, and a person who is a computer consultant came up to me, and purposefully, we had a dinner before the talk, sat next to me and said, "Bo, I want to make sure that what you're saying is as accurate as you can be. He said, I've heard you talk about Mary Rolfe's laser tattoo being applied to people. He said, it doesn't work. He said, my credentials are that I am a computer consultant who helped the EEC, the Economic Community of Europe, set up the EAN system, European Article Numbering System. We call it the Uniform Product Code. It is the barcode. He said, so I know what I'm talking about. He said, this marking system is designed to mark every article on Earth, and we have almost completed that. He said, it is also designed to mark all human beings. He said, we will not use infrared laser tattoo. He said, this is meant to be accepted when you come into this world as an infant. If we used a laser tattoo as the person matured, it would be distorted, or as they had living experience, it might somehow be made unusable, and that is your bank account. It is going to be everything, because the ultimate design is a cashless system where everything is electronic. It is a